the level, the bar has been raised dramatically since last time we were a full team, and we know that. So we are also humble about our ambitions, because we know that the sport that we are entering into is a tough sport, that competition is huge.
Hello there guys and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for me to bring you episode number 6 of our Formula 1 2016 career mode, otherwise known as F1 2016 career mode here with Renault. And today we've got the jewel of the calendar, and it is Monaco, the Monte Carlo Grand Prix. And going into this one, I'm not entirely sure if we have any upgrades going into this one, but I'm sure, as you can see on the screen, you'll be pretty impressed with what Manor have brought to the table. 3 competitor updates for them, also 2 for Red Bull, although you can only see 1 of them on the screen. So cars getting a lot better. We're hoping to have enough resource points to be able to put a very good upgrade into the running, or into the works, for the Canadian Grand Prix, which will of course be round number 7. So you guys can look out for that. That won't be featured at the end of this episode, but I will show you myself doing that upgrade at the start of the next episode. But in the meantime, you can see here we're getting into practice. And for those who are wondering, Niran, is this going to be a very good Grand Prix? Well, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but you should definitely watch the remaining, 20 minutes of this video, because we all know Monaco provides absolutely incredible Grand Prix, and that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say about the topic for now. But as you can see in the background, we're doing the track acclimatization. These days, that's basically a free 50 resource points, especially around a track that I know so well, being Monaco. We get the green score on the first lap, and we're now coming around to beat the purple score. We haven't missed a single corner throughout the lap, and we're going to easily, comfortably beat the 525 target score with a score of 545, so pretty decent work there in terms of that. Now that we're going for the qualifying pace program, and throughout the season so far we've really struggled when it comes to tyre wear tests and the qualifying pace. We managed to actually smash the qualifying pace one out to the park by getting a purple score on our first try. So that's another 50 resource points. So we've done pretty well in that in that practice session. You can see 100 resource points there from the practice programs, and also 15 in terms of team objectives. I think we finished off the other 2 at a later point in a different practice session. So we've got a lot of resource points, and we can get some upgrades going for Canada. But you can see in the background, actually, in FP1, Sergio Perez and Jenson Button actually collided, and they earned themselves grid penalties. They're not massive ones. I think they're only 5-place grid penalties each. So we'll have to see how that affects us as well in qualifying, because obviously if either Sergio Perez or Jenson Button qualify in front of us, we might gain a few free positions out of that. But our qualifying pace has been good all weekend. Now let's see if we can put it into action by checking out the qualifying report. The first session of the day saw Kimi Räikkönen fastest in the Ferrari, but it was ex-Ferrari employee Felipe Massa who was the main story, going out in 21st. Rio Haryanto, on the other hand, impressed, grabbing 17th place. Q2 would see a Mercedes fastest, as Lewis Hamilton started his charge for pole. Yusufu made it into Q3 for only the second time with a stunning lap, whilst both Perez and Jenson Button will start outside of the top 10 due to grid penalties. Pole, though, would once again go to Lewis Hamilton as he finished the session ahead of Sebastian Vettel in 2nd. Red Bull Racing struggled to 6th and 7th, but the sister Toro Rosso car of Kvyat flourished once again, taking 4th place. So the Monaco Grand Prix will see Lewis Hamilton on pole position from Sebastian Vettel in 2nd. Kimi Räikkönen shared the 2nd row with Daniel Kvyat, with Nico Rosberg down in 5th and Daniel Ricciardo in 6th. Then it's Max Verstappen in 7th from Carlos Sainz in 8th, with Yusufu 9th, Bottas 10th, Fernando Alonso in 11th, and the Haas of Romain Grosjean completing the top 12. So then, quite an extraordinary qualifying session. Myself, Kevin Magnussen, the whole Renault team have been finding it so difficult. You saw in the intro at the start. Throughout this season, lots of incidents, lots of punctures, especially tyre wear issues as well. We've been finding it difficult to get consistent points, only 3 points collectively for Renault as a constructor in the championship, but we've got a wonderful chance to score even more points here in Monaco, starting 9th on the grid. It's our best qualifying of the season. It would have been 10th, but that grid penalty for Sergio Perez did prove crucial in the end because he dropped from, I think it was 9th is where he was actually originally, and he ended up dropping to 14th. So we gain a free position out of that, and we're now up into P9. I think the person who's benefited the most out of that is actually, I think it's Valtteri Bottas potentially, who was starting outside of the top 10, so he had free choice in terms of tyres, and now he's starting in the top 10 because of that grid penalty for Sergio Perez. We'll have to see then how we do in the race. Our pace has been pretty damn good all week, and I definitely think we've got a chance of some very good points in this race. We all know Monaco Grand Prix are usually crazy. There's no, in terms of the weather conditions, I'm not sure we're going to see anything in terms of changeable conditions or rain. There's no wet weather forecasted for this Grand Prix. In terms of the strategy, we all know it's a pretty basic one-stop unless there's some sort of tyre wear issues or some sort of broken front wing, so I didn't bother showing you that. On the formation lap, we're just going to speed it up because you guys have seen basically everything there is to see. We did have a very interesting moment down into Mirabeau where Carlos Sainz just decided to drop the anchors on completely. We had to basically avoid him. I apologise for your eyes there as we had to look back quite significantly, but yeah, Carlos Sainz just braking heavily, and we had to try and drive past him. I realised for some reason the racing line was on as well halfway through the formation lap, so we had to switch that off. But nevertheless, we are heading towards the grid now to start the Monaco Grand Prix, and I hope you guys are hyped because this surely is going to be wonderful. We are lining up onto the grid now. We've got the long and anxious wait as the rest of the grid lines up behind us. Carlos Sainz to our left, good qualifying for him. Valtteri Bottas just behind us. We've got Max Verstappen directly in front of us in terms of positioning on the grid. And we've got Fernando Alonso directly behind us in terms of positioning on the grid in P11. But this is a wonderful chance for ourselves to get some incredible points here for Renault and at least try and overtake someone in the Constructors' Championship. The lights are starting to illuminate. The 5 lights are now on, and they, after a long hold, are now off. It's an okay start. Valtteri Bottas has got a wonderful launch to the left-hand side. Sainz gets a pretty poor start and down into Sandoval for the first time. We're going up the inside of the Spaniard in a Toro Rosso. Down into the first corner, we're held up a little bit by Max Verstappen, who's trying to get up the inside of his teammate, and myself and Carlos Sainz are going to run alongside each other up towards Massenet in the Casino section, going around the outside, a tiny bit of contact with the wall, still alongside the Spaniard, down into the Casino section. I think we're just about going to hold on. It gets so close as well on the exit of turn number 3, but incredible scenes there as we just about hold on to the position. We've gained a position from the start of the race. That was incredible racing between myself and Carlos Sainz. We've got yellow flags out behind. Unsurprisingly, it's the first lap of Monaco after all, so someone's had some sort of collision. We've actually hit the wall there. We were very lucky not to chip off a bit of front wing. As you can see there, I instantly made sure that we hadn't got any sort of damage by going on the vehicle condition map. And down into the Nouvelle Chicane, without broken ourselves a little bit, ended up taking a very generous amount of curb there, going through the Nouvelle Chicane for the first time and down into Tabac. Let's have a little look at what happened towards the back and what caused the yellow flag, and it's our teammate Kevin Magnussen, and he is simply driven right into the back of Rio Haryanto, who luckily for the Indonesian picks up no damage. He had a really wonderful qualifying session actually. Someone who did not have a very good qualifying session was Felipe Massa, and he was actually caught up in that as well, hitting the back end I think of Felipe Nasr there, so he's broken his front wing as well. I think Marcus Ericsson broke his front wing too, so 3 people going to have to pit at the end of the first lap there, being Magnussen, Felipe Massa, and also the Sauber driver, the Swede, Marcus Ericsson. So it's been a pretty diabolical race weekend for Felipe Massa, and in the same weekend as in real life that he actually announced he was retiring from the sport. It's not as if it's going to be a happy ending in terms of this race. On to lap 4 though, and you can see that we've done a pretty good job of hanging on to the coattails of Max Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo in front of us. That's mainly down to the fact that Daniel Kvyat, who had an incredible qualifying session, is currently holding up Nico Rosberg and the 2 Red Bulls in front of us all the way on to, well, not all the way on to lap 6, but on to lap 6, and you can see we're still basically in touching distance, and our pace has actually allowed us to extend away from Carlos Sainz. Everyone, of course, on the ultra soft tyres around us, you know, basically. There might be a few guys on the soft tyres towards, super soft tyres towards the back. I don't think anyone will be using the soft tyres. We're on the Lowe's hairpin onto lap 7. You can see again we're basically still with Max Verstappen. Onto lap 10 though, when we're starting to feel the effects of tyre wear, and Verstappen, Kvyat, Rosberg and Ricciardo, not in that order obviously, were starting to drive away from us, but still pretty good pace to be on par with someone who's in P4 in this one, but all the way onto lap 12 and we're really struggling. Coming through the final corner, you can see the tyre wear gauge is pretty poor. We were scheduled to come in onto lap 13 or 14, I think, so we should easily still be able to get to that lap in terms of making a pit stop. Up into P6 as a few people come into the pit lane there in front of us, but Carlos Sainz in that Toro Rosso is starting to catch us, and he's bringing a massive train of cars with him, the likes of Valtteri Bottas, Fernando Alonso, etc. Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen are into the pit lane on the next lap. They're sticking on a set of super softs that should go to the end. And until lap 14, the tyres have cried enough, and we are coming into the pit lane for our pit stop, our first and hopefully only pit stop of the day in this Renault, of course, unless things change drastically a little bit later on. But we're into the pit lane. Seems like an alright stop from the boys, 2.7. Not really the dizzying heights of the low 2-second mark that we see in real life, but it's still a decent pit stop nonetheless. Carlos Sainz actually pitted the lap before us, and I think he's managed to get the undercut on us. Yes, he has. He goes through easily in front of us, so Carlos Sainz has made up a lot of time on us, and you never know, that could be crucial later on in the race for the Spaniard, and for us, of course, as well. But Carlos Sainz gaining a position on us, and of course, the more positions we gain, we lose, obviously, the less likely we're going to finish in the points. And with people like Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez behind us, that's going to be very difficult. Sergio Perez trying to get up the inside of us down into Saint-Devote. Almost had an aeroplane crash with a McLaren coming out the pit lane. That was Fernando Alonso. He must have been wondering what the hell was going on. Down towards Massenet. Again, we are alongside a competitor. This time it's the Force India. The Mexican driver Sergio Perez. A wonderful switchback move towards the casino section. Perez hits the inside wall and then hits us on the exit of the corner. But we just about hold on to the position. Some incredible racing again. Then we clip the inside of the wall into Mirabeau, which is of course going to slow us down. We've got to make sure that we maintain good pace here, because Valtteri Bottas hasn't actually pitted yet, as we're now on to lap 17. Towards the end of lap 17, Button, Gutierrez and that man himself, Valtteri Bottas, the one to watch, are coming out of the pit lane. We are just about going to squeak around the outside there of the Williams driver. We were actually struggling for pace realistically on these super softs in comparison to the pace we were finding on the ultra softs, so we've done a pretty decent job there to hold on in front of the Williams driver. Carlos Sainz, meanwhile, is driving away up the road. You can see how much time he's gained on us by the mini-map. He's already about 2 corners ahead of us at this point. We are holding up a massive train. Valtteri Bottas, Sergio Perez, Button, Fernando Alonso is in here. Button might be in here as well, actually, I'm not entirely sure. I think there's the 2 Haas cars on the back. Even Pascal Wehrlein was starting to get involved. Our pace in this one was absolutely horrendous. Valtteri Bottas there, thinking of a move down to the Nouvelle Chicane, but obviously it's a very, very difficult ask there, as we are now on to lap 22. Tyre wear was feeling alright in this section of the race as well. Now going through the tunnel section on to lap 26, and we're still managing to hold all of these guys behind us. Valtteri Bottas again thinking of a move around the outside of Nouvelle Chicane. That's compromised our line, and we've clipped the inside wall down into the Nouvelle Chicane. There's a pile-up behind us. There's contact. The 2 Haas cars have made contact. The 2 Haas machines even. I feel a bit weird saying Haas and then cars afterwards, but an incident for ourselves. And, I mean, to be fair, we haven't actually... I mean, we've been held up, yes, obviously, because we spun. We haven't actually lost any time in terms of people behind us. We haven't actually lost any positions. We've actually been able to sort of split up that gaggle behind us. You can see on the replay, wonderful camera there being the airplane camera, or the helicopter cam even. And you could see a few cars losing their front wings behind, so got to apologise for that. It was a very silly mistake, and it's very easy to make mistakes like that at Monaco. You can see Romain Grosjean piling into someone. That's Esteban Gutierrez that we're on board with as well. He piled into the back of his team. I think everyone else sort of came away relatively unscathed. I think Jenson Button might have had a few issues, the 2 Haas machines as well, breaking a bit of their front wings. I think Grosjean carried on, but I think Esteban Gutierrez has done too much damage by the looks of things in order to continue. But we are still in P9 despite that big moment there at the Nouvelle Chicane. That could have been disastrous, but what is disastrous is Kevin Magnussen. You can see at the bottom of the screen our team engineer is telling us that he's got a puncture down into Saint-Devote. And this is a disaster. The puncture has struck again. This time it's Kevin Magnussen. It's the front right. You can see it delaminating there down into the first corner. We've seen a lot of carnage from this sort of thing. He stopped on the apex and he's been hit by the race leader behind in the wing mirrors. You can see that was Lewis Hamilton, who's broken his front wings. This is absolute carnage. The race leader's damaged himself. Rumble with Jenson Button heading towards the scene of the accident. Sebastian Vettel's broken his front wing as well in front of us. Behind, Marcus Ericsson's having an accident of his own. He's locked up and gone into Saint-Devote. And there's Kimi Räikkönen and Nico Rosberg piling into the back end of a Haas as well. And now Rumble with Jenson Button, and he's smashed into the back of Kevin Magnussen, so he's broken his front wing again. He's lost his entire front wing, but behind us, on board with Jenson Button, you could see down into Saint-Devote, Marcus Ericsson had an accident of his own. We're on board, though, with Nico Rosberg. We've got Kimi Räikkönen directly in front of us, and we're about to pile into the pile-up that's in front of us, and that's Kimi Räikkönen, Rosberg, Hamilton and Vettel involved, and now we've got another car in the mix as well as Daniel Kvyat, who's absolutely piled into the back of Nico Rosberg. This is absolute carnage at the Monaco Grand Prix. The Red Bulls have managed to get through relatively unscathed. Daniel Kvyat will have some front wing damage. This is a replay of him. You can see Nico Rosberg's also got a puncture, so both of the Mercedes and both of the Ferraris will have to pit for new front wings, new tyres, whatever. Rosberg's basically out of the race. That was Daniel Kvyat having a monumental collision with the German in the Mercedes. I think one of the Red Bulls has also got front wing damage. This is absolutely insane. Here with about 10 laps to go, we're coming through with the scene of the accident. There's front wing damage absolutely everywhere up towards Massenet. I think it's Massenet in the Casinos complex. Onto lap 29, and this race has sprung into life. Nico Rosberg's directly in front of us. We've actually lost it a little bit there coming through that left-hander, and that almost allowed Bottas to come through, but Rosberg's parked it on the apex at Mirabeau. He's going no further, and down into the lowest hairpin, and Daniel Kvyat and Daniel Ricciardo are stuck. We're going to have to crawl at the inside of them, and it is absolute carnage here at the Monaco Grand Prix. Nico Rosberg, his dismal season continues. He's got a puncture, he's got a limp back to the pit lane. So have Kvyat and Ricciardo. Kvyat, who had such a good qualifying, it's completely unravelled for the Russian Toro Rosso driver. We've got another damaged car. This is Marcus Ericsson, who had an accident all on his own. He just locked up and went straight into the wall at Saint-Devant. Here's the instigator for everything, Kevin Magnussen, and our teammate with a front right puncture, and he is having yet another disastrous race. This is Kimi Räikkönen now going slowly in front of us here as we go through the swimming pool section. He's got a broken front wing. He's now out of the running for the race win. Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, who were first and second, they're now out of the running. Felipe Massa, who's been caught up in another accident, he's coming into the pit lane for a new front wing. There are damaged cars absolutely everywhere. Sebastian Vettel coming out the pit lane. He's on the ultra soft tyres. He's of course going to the end on the quicker compound, but we are ahead of him, and after all of that, we are up into P4, and whoever was fifth in this race has benefited massively, because both the Ferraris, both of the Mercedes cars that were in front of whoever that was, are now out, and whoever that is will be leading the race and will be laughing to the bank, because they could well grab a win. We, though, are not looking as if we're going to grab a fourth place in this race, because Sebastian Vettel in the quicker car on the quicker tyres is going through. I knew I would not be able to hold on to that one for the rest of the race, so I might as well just sort of let him through. We, though, are now in a wonderful position in this Grand Prix. We're up into P5, and basically all we've got to do now is keep people behind. Daniel Kvyat is still behind us. I'd be surprised if he hasn't got a penalty after that massive collision with Nico Rosberg down at Saint-Devant, just piling into him. And on to lap 31, and you know what, I was feeling lucky. To be honest with you, our tyre wear has not been great in this race again. Exhibit A being Kevin Magnussen's puncture. Again, this Renault just chews through its tyres for both of us, and we had such a massive gap back to Daniel Kvyat, who was clearly struggling with front wing damage. I thought, you know what, we might as let's make this interesting. Let's actually get to the end of the race. Let's come in, stick a set of ultra soft tyres on, and go to the end. Where the predicted pit stop exit position was 8th place. So I was like, well, you know, I mean, at this point, 8th place is the worst position we can finish in. However, we have, of course, got to catch the people in front of us in 5th, 6th and 7th. That's Daniel Kvyat, Valtteri Bottas and Fernando Alonso. Jenson Button also went through, but he was a lap down. We've already lapped him. Fernando Alonso is the next man up, going into Raskas. And you can see, actually, on the position indicator, the man behind us in P9, who's managed to avoid all the carnage in this race, is Rio Haryanto. The Indonesian in the Mana is in 9th position. Mana could be getting some points. We, though, could be getting some more points because we're going up the inside at Saint-Devant. Fernando Alonso just about avoiding the wall on the outside, and that is a position gained. Alonso, I think, also had a tiny bit of front wing damage, so he was struggling for pace a little bit. And you can see just literally about a second up the road is Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Kvyat. So we've literally had to put very, very minimal effort in to really be able to get back to where we were before we came into the pit lane, and we're guaranteed now to make it to the end. These tyres will definitely not puncture before the end of the race. Daniel Kvyat, who's struggling with quite a lot of front wing damage, I'm sure he's got some sort of penalty as well. He's in P5, Valtteri Bottas being held up behind him, and it's a wonderful move surely up the inside into Raskas. A very opportunistic move up the inside of Valtteri Bottas in the Williams, and we get the move completed through the final corner. Bottas actually clobbers the wall on the outside, but no damage done, I don't think, to his front wing. But a really, really opportunistic move at Raskas there on Valtteri Bottas, who was unable to make his way past Daniel Kvyat. And now surely the Toro Rosso driver will be the easiest of the three to dispatch. He's really struggling with basically half a front wing. We're in the DRS zone and down towards Saint-Devant where we passed Fernando Alonso. We're going to go up the inside of Daniel Kvyat as well, and we are back to where we were before we came into the pit lane. It's a master strategy, I suppose. We've ended up with more action, and we've ended up with, well, where we were before. But what a race this has ended up being, up into P5, and you can see Now, I was saying earlier, whoever was in 5th when all that carnage at Saint-Devote happened is going to be in the money. They're going to be in the lead of the race, and at the moment, it is Carlos Sainz in the Toro Rosso. Carlos Sainz is currently winning the Monaco Grand Prix into the tunnel in the final lap. We've been barely challenged by anyone behind because obviously they're on the super softs. Bottas has finally managed to get past Daniel Kvyat now as well as we go down into the Nouvelle Chicane, and we are on course for a monumental result here, historic result, P5 in the Renault at the Monaco Grand Prix. Another historic result though is Carlos Sainz in the Toro Rosso out of nowhere. Because of the incidents for both the Mercedes and the Ferraris, Carlos Sainz in that maxed out Toro Rosso due to all the development they've done, Carlos Sainz has won. But more importantly for us, we are rounding the final corner and coming onto the home straight. It is going to be P5 for ourselves in the Monaco Grand Prix. What a result and what an astonishing race. One of the greatest races I've ever recorded, and I'm sure one of the greatest races you guys have seen as well, just for how just mixed up it was. It was absolutely all over the place, and Carlos Sainz has won the Monaco Grand Prix. It's his first win of his career, and it's, I think, maybe like the second win for Toro Rosso. I know Seb Vettel won in a Toro Rosso, but absolutely astonishing scenes. Carlos Sainz on the one-stopper. Obviously Hamilton, Rosberg, Raikkonen and Vettel all having to do the two stops. The two-stopper strategy because of the fact they broke their front wings on Kevin Magnussen, who once again has done us an incredible favour by just obliterating everyone else. But Carlos Sainz, what a sight. My favourite driver in F1, Carlos Sainz, spraying the champagne. Hopefully we see a lot of that in real life. Sebastian Vettel actually managed to recover to second place. So after passing us, he really just sort of just flew up the road and managed to take second place. Max Verstappen was third, so he rounded out the podium. Hamilton fourth, then ourselves in fifth. Renault's best result since returning to the sport. Valtteri Bottas in sixth, Alonso seventh, Raikkonen eighth. And would you look at that, just in case you thought it couldn't get any crazier, in P9 and P10, it is a double point scoring result for Mana Racing. Just when you thought it just couldn't get any weirder. Rio Haryanto finishes in 9th after a wonderful qualifying, and Pascal Wehrlein from the back of the grid grabs our point. He finishes in P10. A double point scoring finish for Mana, just absolutely insane. Here is how that race has affected the Drivers' Championship. Sebastian Vettel actually extends his lead after all of that over Lewis Hamilton, who's in second. It's Verstappen, Ricciardo, Sainz up to P5 after that win. Just incredible scenes. Fernando Alonso there in 6th. Perez, Kvyat, Rosberg and Raikkonen all down positions. Rosberg down in 9th in the championship. We though have moved up to P14 past Nico Hülkenberg and Romain Grosjean with that 5th place, so we are now sat on 13 points and only 2 points behind Button, only 5 points behind Massa, so we're actually pretty close to being in sort of the top 11, top 10. And there you can see Rio Haryanto above Esteban Gutierrez now in the championship, and Pascal Wehrlein is obviously on the points board as well. Here's the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari still out on top from Mercedes, then Red Bull. Toro Rosso now above McLaren after again that win for Carlos Sainz. Then it's Force India and Williams. We have now jumped above Haas, which is pretty nice, and Mana with those 3 points, that 9th for Haryanto and the 10th for Wehrlein, are now above Sauber, and Sauber are the only team not to have scored any points now so far this season. But what an astonishing Monaco Grand Prix. Just unbelievable. We've now got 826 resource points to spend on an upgrade for Canada. You'll see that next episode. But, I mean, it's got a lot to live up to after that race. Just a phenomenal race. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section. If you've enjoyed it somehow, if you did, I mean, you have to have enjoyed it. If we could smash 100 likes on this absolutely insane episode of Renault Career Mode, that would be massively appreciated. Subscribe if you're new around here as well, and comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much. But it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.